Hi, everybody, and welcome to Be in the Know, Table Games and More. I'm your host, Benny Mancino, sometimes known as the B-Man. And for the third year in a row, Derek, you have been gracious enough to come on this little bitty vlog and grace us with the football forecast for 2025. And we'll talk about some other things, but welcome to Be in the Know.
Good to see you again, Benny. I look forward to seeing you here, G2. I know I'll see you here in a few weeks.
Oh yeah, can't wait to get back out there. So Derek, my world is table games, right? My little business I'm in now, Tavola and that, all centered around table games. And you have been the talk of the table games town with the recent news that you're going to pull games out of the Golden Gate. I know you're a table games enthusiast, Derek. If it wasn't for table games, I don't know if you'd be sitting where you're sitting today. And, strategic move, is that what it is, basically?
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm not a guy that dislikes table games. I love table games, and you know it from the time I first met you when I was just a kid coming to Vegas, and you were over at the Hard Rock. Now, I think really the key thing for us is that yeah, labor costs are a part of it. I'm not going to deny that, but I think the really the thing that put me over the edge, it's been something that I've been tracking now for 2 years. For those of you that have visited Circa, on the second floor at Circa, we had an area of slots between our bar called the Overhang Bar and the entrance to Stadium Swim. And then we started making some moves in that area. Our director of slots, Alan Randall, decided to put some ETGs in there. And I was a little bit surprised at how busy these things got. And I normally wouldn't have gone up there when it was just regular slots, but then these ETGs really turned into something. And then what happened was our overhang bar kind of turned into something, and it became a social scene, and it became something that for me it reminded me of what it was 15 years ago at the Golden Gate when we brought in the first dancing dealers. That I saw this energy that people were going out, they were playing in groups on all these ETGs, going back and forth to the bar. People were hooting and hollering, and I was just amazed at how the energy kind of just jumped up in that area. So we kind of expanded. We brought in more ETGs. Actually, we still have some more coming in. And what I found was that it seems to me that a lot of younger people have had a bigger struggle getting into table games. I mean, I think when you look at the last 30 years, there's always been things everybody tries to do, table game lessons, other things like that, try to make it friendly. But there's still an intimidation perspective. And I don't know, something like ever since COVID, more and more people are on their phone, more and more people are more accustomed to ordering. I mean, you're ordering from McDonald's on your app, you're ordering from Starbucks on your app, you're just more accustomed to these more electronic interactions. And I just think the consumer is really the big change. So really for us, what I tried to do was think about, I'm fortunate. We've got Circa right across the street, and we've got the D a couple blocks down. So we kind of thought, okay, we could use more dealers in these two locations. I know the dealers will make a little bit more in tips. We eliminate some redundancy and maybe floor soups and other things like that. But we have those needs inside of the D and Circa, and let's see if we can bring back a real high energy vibe into the Golden Gate and see if we can increase revenue. So that was really the whole thing. Um, if I only owned the Golden Gate like that was the case in 2010, yeah, I wouldn't have done this. I mean, I love table games, but now with the options with what we have with the D and then at Circa, I kind of thought, this could be a pretty cool little development here. And let's kind of use the Golden Gate as this test site for what I'm going to call a really high end exclusive slot experience that includes ETGs as well as high limit slots. I mean, you go around town here and you see these high limit rooms that are being built, whether they're a Stations property, whether it's an MGM property, whether it's a Wynn or a Caesars property. These slot rooms, these high limit slot rooms, are having bars put in, separate restrooms. They become the social scene. A lot of chairs, furniture, and stuff like that, and people love going out together. It's really become kind of a cool thing to do from an entertainment perspective. And I just kind of thought, what would be more cool than if we took the oldest building in Vegas, the entire building, one Fremont Street, Golden Gate, and we turned this thing into a super cool slot house with ETGs and with high end slots. So there's a lot that's going into this thing. We're bringing in a lot of these $1 million Dragon Links and a lot of other high end machines that we're going to try to attract big slot players from all over town to come in to check things out. I know they're not going to stay at Golden Gate, but that's not really what we're trying. We're trying to create a really cool, high energy, boutique slot parlor.
Well, you've always been ahead of the curve, Derek, with technology and new ideas. So, I mean, anybody can recognize the strength of iGaming right now. I mean, it's blowing up on the East Coast, and that's where most of these kids get their first taste. We can't afford to provide them a 10-cent single zero roulette. So that's where they're getting their first taste of this action. And, that boutique experience that you got at the Gate could create quite a buzz there. And I know you're an energy man. If you find out the energy is no good, you'll make a change. It's one thing about it. You don't let no grass grow under your feet. And I really I think you might be onto something. So kudos to you, and good luck to it. And I can't wait to see when is all that going to happen, Derek?
Well, on Sunday, September 7th, that's when we're going to deal our last hands.
Okay.
And then we need about 12 days to dig into the floor and work through some electrical and data. And then we plan on relaunching our new concept on September 19th. I can't go into exactly what we're doing at this point. It's still too early, but I can tell you we're going to come out strong on September 19th with a few things that are going to kind of probably blow a few people away.
And I know there's going to be something connected to that last hand. I know you'll save it in your back pocket and blow it out on social media at the last second. But yeah, I can't wait to see what you got up your sleeve, man. So hey, early in this year, you had a very special guest to Circa, none other than the POTUS, right, the President of the United States. And you asked him for one thing that I remember in that conversation. You asked him if he could nudge up the slot jackpot. Now it is going up. By the way, understand January 1. It's only 2,000. It's not quite what you asked, but what do you think? Was that enough, or you really need a little bit more?
Well, I think there's a lot of things up in the air right now. This 90% deductibility is a big deal. I don't think the 2000 is a done deal yet on slot jackpots. So there's a handful of things that still have to happen. But a lot of things get railroaded through. All these regs got railroaded through over 4th of July weekend. I think there's this little time period between then and January 1st where I think there's going to be a lot of amendments going to be jammed in December, and the devil's going to be in the details. So I'm very hopeful that this full deductibility comes back, because I think that's a big thing in sports. It's a big thing in slots. And I'm clearly very hopeful that the slot jackpot gets raised, because having it at $1,200, that it's been for so many decades, just doesn't make sense. Waste of time for everybody.
Yeah, I remember when I, was what 80s, the 1,200, maybe before that. It's crazy. So you're in 5 states now. You're going to get number 6 here shortly, untethered. That means it's all yours to do what you want with there in Missouri. Very exciting stuff for Circa Sports, no?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited. Missouri had a little different process where they provided 2 untethered licenses that you could go after, and then if you didn't get one of those, then you could do one through a casino or through a sports team. So they would call those a tethered license. So we went after the untethered. We thought it fit our business model maybe a little better because
Mhm.
for us, we thought we'd be able to keep our costs a little bit lower, which kind of matches up with our lower hold model. And yeah, we won against a couple of big guys. So we won one of them. So that was pretty cool. And we're moving forward for a 12-1 launch date in Missouri. We're excited about the fact that we're going to launch with our new software, our new tech stack, which will be the first time we're going to launch in a state with our new tech. So we're excited about that. Now we're going to roll out the new tech in a couple states before 12-1. We're going to roll out our new tech in Iowa in September, and then we're going to roll out our new tech in Colorado in November, and then we're going to roll out in a new state in Missouri on 12-1.
Wow, that's incredible. You know, when you're offering the best odds and the best odds in the place, you don't want too many hands in it. So being untethered is not a bad thing, Derek. I think you're really going to do well there. So is it this weekend or was it last weekend, your contest weekend where you get people together for before the big contest start?
Yeah, I mean, it was last weekend. We had football contest sign up weekend. A lot of events. We had the champions dinner, and then we've had the opening cocktail party at Bar Canada, and then had an all day at Stadium Swim, and a lot of people some free time so they could get with their proxies to sign up. And then, Mike Palm put on another wonderful football preview with a great panel. So it was a terrific weekend. Ton of signups. Boy, our football contests are they continue to grow. Last year we set records, and this year we're going to break them. I think the docu series that we had that came out, Circa Survivor: The Quest for 14.2 million. I think that docu series, which you can find on YouTube on the VSiN channel, that really helped spur interest because as soon as that thing came out, boy, oh boy, people just started showing up in droves.
Well, folks, we're talking about Circa has some amazing football contests. You got the Circa Millions, which is more of a, if you would you say, standard football contest where you pick against the spread, and then you got Circa Survivor where you're picking a team a week, one team a week, right, Derek?
Correct. Yep.
And once you use it, you're done. You can't use that team again, and that goes for the whole season. And whoever's left standing at the end can get a lot of money. And I think you're already up to like 11 million in entries, and everybody waits to the last minute anyway. But can you crack 14 too?
Oh, we're gonna crack 14 too. We guaranteed 15 million and we're pacing a few million above that right now. So I think we got a chance to get up to 18 million. So that again, it's just crazy how popular Circus Survivor's been. Yeah, we're going at a record setting pace right now.
Well, then you had to have Circus Survivor wasn't good enough. You had to outdo it with Grandissimo, which
Yeah,
is
so we had
super.
we had a lot of requests for a higher end contest, and Circa Grandissimo, we rolled that out this year, so that's our third contest. And the real premise was people wanted to do a contest that had less entrants with a much higher price point. So Circa Grandissimo is exactly like Circa Survivor, except for two things. One, you're limited to two entries, and number two, and this is a big one. Instead of $1,000, it's $100,000 to enter. I wasn't really sure, how many people we would get, so we guaranteed 1,500,000. But as of right now, we're already at
3 million, huh?
3.4 million right
Yeah.
now. So it's that this one's cruising as well. So that's pretty cool.
So I would think a lot of these people know each other too, and there's a lot of bragging rights. More unlike the Survivor, which you may not even know who you're. But a lot of these people know each other and know. So it's a lot of bragging rights. A lot of jabs are going to be going on during this contest. No.
I would say so. I'm interested by Circa Grandissimo because a lot of people have different reasons. Obviously, if you get into something like this, there's a lot of people getting a good amount of extra publicity. There's some guys that own a couple bars just outside of Green Bay. And they're planning on having a big events, for their Grandissimo selections every week. There's some poker players, there's some financial analysts. a couple financial advisors. So it's a pretty broad mix of people here so far.
So let me understand these contests. So if you're not in Nevada, all right, can you use the proxy to get in, or is that only after you've got in?
Yeah. So the way it works is you have to enter in Nevada. So you have to enter at one of our properties, and once you enter, at all of our properties, there's proxies hanging around, like kind of like professors doing office hours. They're all hanging around, and then it's the proxy that'll put your picks in for you throughout the year. And here's the nuance on the legal on this. The reason why this is legal is this is not actually considered gambling. You make your investment in the contest in Nevada under the cameras with all the ID, know your customer type of things, but then actually putting the selections in, it's not considered gambling because you already risked your amount while you were here.
Yeah.
So the proxy, you pay the proxy. The proxy acts basically as the in person that's gonna put the pick in for you. You just let the proxy know what your selections are, and the proxy will do that for you.
Well, that's cool. So take a quick trip out there, get yourself in, and then let your fingers do the walking. Somebody else do the walking, I guess, with the proxy. Okay, so that's cool. That's as excellent. Well, good luck with that. So okay, let's talk about football. It's right around the corner, right? Everything starts. I think this week a bunch of college games starts. What's the biggest trends this year in betting trends, or do you see something that maybe isn't being bet that you thought should be?
Oh, I would just say the thing that stands out to me is just the continued growth. I mean, football just becomes more and more popular. Our hotel have been busier and busier as people getting ready for football season. Today opening Thursday night of NFL of college. So it's just really become so much more integrated into the culture and society of America. It's obviously fun to be, involved in some way. To see how college football keeps growing, and then obviously the NFL is just that's a whole nother animal with how well they've grown that business.
Well, it'd be nice if you had a winning team. Of course, I'm here in Ohio with the Browns, so uh, you know, maybe I could go switch to the Bengals, but after this many years of suffering, I might as well just keep punishing myself. Uh, so, any particular teams or bets that are either an overlay or an underlay that you see at this point early?
Well, I think anybody that took Green Bay is pretty happy right now. Green Bay just shot to the favorite of the NFC North after this Micah Parsons trade. So I think we're seeing a lot of Green Bay money today. I can tell you that. Overall, I would say I think we've seen a decent amount of money come in on maybe some longer shots. Carolina looks interesting. Jacksonville seen some money. Some teams that have not done well in years past, but we're starting to see some money on some of the teams that have some easier schedules and things like that. I would say from an overall perspective, Josh Allen and Buffalo Bills are really top of the AFC. NFC is more of a mixed bag between Green Bay, Detroit, Philadelphia is still the favorite. So that's kind of interesting how that NFC is playing out in that sense.
Well, I don't have to ask you who you favor to win the NFC. I mean, that's pretty obvious. It's going to be the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
How do you see them this year? Is the defense back built up or no?
Yeah, last year, they had a lot of injuries. They had a crazy amount of injuries. But now with those injuries behind them, you think, okay, things could look good. The problem is the Lions have that very, very difficult first place schedule, and that schedule that they have this year is brutal. So they just got to get to the playoffs. If they get to the playoffs,
Yeah.
I think they'll be in good shape. But these first place schedules are very, very difficult. I think that's why you see so many teams kind of regress back the way they schedule. It's also why you see so many teams that finish third or fourth in their division one year could catapult up pretty quickly.
So if team doubles up back to back, they're a serious team. I mean, right? I
Yeah.
mean, got to be. So we had a lot. It seemed like, I don't know if it was just my imagination. It seemed like a lot of focus on the draft and the rookies. There's so many, the Sador Sanders, all these guys, Jackson Dart, which who looks very, very impressive. What I've seen of him. Uh, do you think they're looking at these rookies? Who's going to make that big difference this year, Derek?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, that's probably something better asked for somebody a bit more astute than me. I'm not at that level like I used to be able to answer something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think Jackson Dart. I mean, the way the truth played here in college and the way people are looking at him now, I think that's going to be a pretty interesting development. I think when you see what's going to happen with Cam Ward, we're going to see something unique there. On the Detroit side, Isaac Tesla, this kid's been unbelievable in preseason. So I think that's pretty interesting. It's good to see the kid from Boise, Ashton Genty. Looks like he's going to be a top rookie, probably potentially even a top MVP candidate is how highly people believe in Ashton Genty and what the Raiders are going to do. So it's always great to see all these new talents come into the league.
Yeah, there's so many crazy things going on this year. I'm really, I was kind of inspired by our quarterback we got from Oregon. Little guy though, very, very, very small dude, but he's still able to move the ball down the field. But yeah, the Browns are just the Browns. My God. So this
Hey,
year,
Gabriel looked pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
I think he did.
he does. He really does. Uh, so this year they did a lot of creative things like the kickers can have the ball 3 days out or something like that to prepare it. And we had what in preseason we had a 70 or 71-yard field goal. Yeah,
Yeah.
how much you think that's going to affect the game?
I talked about it with our risk room people, and there's a general thought that this is going to increase scoring slightly. It will have an impact on totals, um, because if it's gonna increase the frequency of long field goal attempts, and long field goal attempts. If you make the field goal, you get the points. If you don't, you really set up the other side for a short field. So there's some rather significant thought that totals in general will be higher because of this new ball rule.
Yeah, I really thought it was the totals would be the one that really have to take some scrutinizing by the big boys to figure out what the heck how do you set the line, you know? So we'll see. So we had and this maybe this isn't that big of a deal, but we had an incident in baseball here in Cleveland where I think it had to do with a pitch, you know, to where the pitcher was threw something totally that you wouldn't have thrown, and the state here is looking into it seriously. And you know, do you think that there'll be other bets and like what I guess what I'm talking about is what they call them when you're playing in game, in game bets. You think some of them will be tailored back because of some of these events that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think in-game betting makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, but I think what you're talking about is micro betting, and I think micro betting is ridiculous. I think the book ought to take a bath on that, because if you're going to allow someone to make a bet on whether the first pitch of an inning, which frankly isn't very relevant,
Yeah.
on whether it's a strike or a ball, we will Circa Sports will never post a bet like that. That the book deserves to get beat on something like that. The players that were involved, frankly, I think it's worse than anything Pete Rose ever did. Not even close, because they may have impacted an element of the game that is far more severe than anything Pete Rose ever did. So yeah, it's really something to see to see what happened. But to have a first pitch like that was thrown, yeah, I could see that being that being a lifetime ban.
That's a
And
problem, right?
and yeah, it's just you shouldn't have micro betting. In the same sense, take a look at the NBA. how are you going to put a prop bet on the ninth or 10th man on the end of the bench? You shouldn't be able to do that. I can understand, putting props out of your top three guys on the NBA. You can even make an argument for all five starters and maybe even a six man, but that's it. You cannot book these other type of wagers. And by doing that, you're just going to have more scandals and problems. Um, so this is something that we wouldn't want to book. We're not going to book.
Yeah.
And I just hope there's not too many problems that cause regulators to have the pendulum swing too far back the other way. I mean, where
Right.
you're at, Benny, you know, Governor DeWine's talking about, came out with, we're going to eliminate prop bets. Like, oh my God, that's a terrible, terrible idea. If you do that, you're just going to force everything underground. You,
Yeah.
you don't want the pendulum to swing too far like that. But I do think elimination of micro betting makes sense because it doesn't do any good. It doesn't do any good for the consumer. It doesn't do any good for anybody.
Well, that's you know, it's crazy. Some of these, I don't know who comes up with this. It's definitely not a old school bookie because they would know.
No,
Never ever think about
right.
taking that kind of bet. Okay, so I on to something else that fascinates me is these computer programs that search the different sports books for overlays, and that's something like uninvaded or something like that. How are these people really making money? I think you still need some basis of skill. You can't just go on there as an amateur and you're going to immediately be a pro better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ARB guys provide value to the market because they
Mhm.
provide liquidity. If you didn't have people watching their odds boards, whether it's on spot odds or on unabated or Don Best or something, you would just have you wouldn't have the liquidity that's really needed to have a good market. If you don't have liquidity, then you don't have the ability to have sports books take big bets. We just took a $500,000 bet on a college football game half hour ago. I feel pretty good about that because I know with the line move, because of these odds boards, there's going to be a lot of the market that's going to see it, and we're going to get buyback real, real fast.
Hmm.
The old days before people, had these odds boards, it was all through a telephone call and word of mouth, and it'd be harder to get the buyback. So what's the result?
Yeah.
The limits are a lot lower.
Yeah.
So, you wouldn't like in the old days, you always talked about how great it was to go into the Stardust and all that.
Yeah.
Well, let's not let the past, let's not romanticize the past too much. Nobody was walking into Stardust betting $500,000 on a college football game. That's where I think there's been a lot of progress. So I think the guys that provide all that work they do and have liquidity and okay, we have a line, boom, we take a $500,000 bet, we move it a point. The other guys are out there. They're going to try to get value and creating that buyback, and we need that buyback.
Well, that's a great analysis of that because it's just like everything we do in this world right now. It's so quick the reaction, right? Like with stock markets, something happens, an incident happens, a company drops 4 points and 5 points in 2 minutes. It's yeah, it has to affect sports the same way. Okay, so I don't want to hold you up, so I'm gonna get to some predictions. Now, I know you may not want to talk about this because I'm going to talk about that team up, the team down south. We call you the team up north. But Ohio State's playing Texas. This may be the biggest college game of the year, and it's played right the first week. What do you see that game going?
Well, it's been all Texas money, so we got Texas as a favorite right now. Um, so I would tell you, if you get
Are
a
you?
chance to get Ohio State as an underdog,
Yeah.
I don't know how you pass that up. Yeah, I went to Michigan, but I respect Ohio State a hell of a lot.
And you're rooting for them, I would guess this week by what you said about the
You're
where the
correct.
money's going.
You're correct.
Okay, all right. So I got you there. Uh, what team right now would you say is going to overperform their game total in NFL?
I would say I do like the, on some of the action that we've seen that's come in the NFL. I do like Carolina. I think Carolina can have a year above expectation. I think in the AFC, I think Jacksonville. I mentioned both those teams already. I think they both could stand up there. Um, I don't think the Chicago Bears will meet expectations solely because I think expectations are too high.
Mhm.
Bringing in a new head coach is great for the Bears, but when you bring in a new head coach and there's an offensive guy and you've got an erratic young quarterback, it takes a little time for things to settle in. So I think maybe there's a little too much hype on the Chicago Bears, and I could see them going under, the current listed win total.
Yeah, I was looking at that in New York, but they moved that line, and the Giants. After I seen Jackson Dart, I thought, well, maybe I'll jump on a little bit of that. Looks like they already made that adjustment though. Uh, Long shot conference winner.
Long shot conference winner. Well, I guess what do you call a long shot? Lions are kind of a long shot. I could see that happening. Buffalo is obviously not a long shot, even though Kansas City's in the AFC. Um, I think the AFC West is very strong. I would not be surprised to see the LA Chargers really stand up. I like what Harbaugh's done there. And then I kind of like what's taking place in Denver. So I think you got a couple of teams in the AFC West that could surprise.
Yeah, hardballs. I've been great coach, and Bo Nix, right? He's the quarterback of
Yeah.
Denver. He was a very strong last year. Okay, here it is. This is the big one. Super Bowl.
Oh, well, I think this year might just be the year for Buffalo. I could see it all coming together. I think it's going to be tough for the Chiefs to continue to do what they're doing. And I would say I think it's going to be Buffalo this year.
Yeah, the Chiefs had a little bit of a collapse last year, right? And I don't know if Taylor can make the difference or not. She sure did in their that New Heights podcast last week. But I don't think that's where it's going to end right there for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm like you. I think their day is done. So Derek, any last words for our sports betting public out there?
I would just tell people make sure you don't sit on getting on these football contests. I think if you get in the original contest called Circa Million, you get a whole year's worth of action for $1,000. You get 18 weeks of action and 126 ways to win. So I think that's really the big value that's out there is the Circa Million. So I hope I get to see some of your listeners here out in Vegas here before the season starts.
Oh, that'd be great. I've heard of so many groups that went together and get joined all these contests. So, you're getting to be like the lottery, man. We got people going grouping up to come and play these games, and maybe we'll get a group get on to get a Grandissimo as well. Derek, thank you for being on Being a No. Everybody,
All right.
thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.